Ivy Valentine subscribes to Mark Yoon, so should you. Enjoy your treat!
Hey, what's up guys? I want to talk today about how much SoulCalibur 7 should actually depart from the past franchise, how much it should hold up, and what it should keep and what it should get rid of, and let's just talk about all that. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about today when it comes to SoulCalibur is the successes that it had in the past compared to its negatives. And for most of us, we know, based on, especially if you're watching my channel, the background financial scenes behind SoulCalibur and where it stays within Bandai Namco and within the publishers as a whole. And we know that like most of the games are run by different teams and have different directors, have different writers, and that's because of finances, because of the financial reasons why a certain company will pay for a game, like let's say Lucasfilm for SoulCalibur 4, why it feels so different from SoulCalibur 3, which was paid primarily by Sony. These are all things that should be understood by now, but that's the only reason why I cut SoulCalibur a break when it comes to the franchise itself, as opposed to other games that usually have a general linear direction. And there's things that like I've liked in the past and things that I didn't like, and things that I think should stay from SoulCalibur 6 and things that shouldn't stay for SoulCalibur 6 for 7. So the first thing we want to talk about is mechanics. So every game tries to have its own like little gimmick thing, and we see this with a lot of fighters. They want to reinvent themselves for the next game to make it not feel super samey as compared to the last entry. And the best way to do that is to change up some of the mechanics of the game to give it like a special oomph or a special feel. We see this throughout all of the series. In Soul Blade and Soul Edge, you can drop your weapon and fight hand to hand until you can pick it up again. In SoulCalibur 3, we were introduced to create a character. In SoulCalibur 4, we were introduced to various meters, and then in SoulCalibur 5, they expanded upon them. SoulCalibur 6 obviously gave us Reversal Edge. There's just like a lot of things in there. Perfect guards, guard impacts, like all that stuff. Like there's the 8-way run's always been there from the beginning, but there's a lot of reasons why they want to try to make the game feel fresh, and that's to pull in new players and to keep it exciting for existing players. Now, we all mostly hate Reversal Edge, right? When it comes to any type of rock, paper, scissors type combat in any kind of fighting game that actually takes away functionality from the player, that actually is very frowned upon, especially when it's not implemented properly. Like we all agree that like if Reversal Edge was to stay and be an actual good mode, it should be nerfed, meaning that like it should actually cost meter to use, not have it gain meter, so you can spam into ultimates directly all the time. And even though it is whiffable and it is defended against at higher levels, lower levels it's spammed all the time, and it is a horror show to say the least. I myself don't very much use it. I use it as intended, like if I'm backed into a wall and I'm about to lose or something, I'll use it once. And I just play with it the way that I believe it was intended to be played, and other people might be like, well, you know, you don't obey the traffic laws in GTA. I actually do, I'm that guy, but beyond like anybody else like trying to play the game and have fun with it, it can present a problem. So I think Reversal Edge needs to go, or it needs to change. Like, I don't want to be safe and just like stay with the safe run and say it needs to be changed. I think it needs to just go in general. SoulCalibur as a whole has some of the highest defensive tactics that you can have in a fighting game. Not just guard impacts, perfect impacts, we have parries, we have the 8-way run system in and of itself, which is also a defensive mechanic. There's regular one-button push blocking with a designated button. There's tons of things that actually like negate attacks or intercept attacks, and we don't need this necessarily QTE 3-button push kind of combo thing in order to get yourself out of a hole necessarily. I understand where they're coming from, trying to make it good for newcomers, but there's other ways of doing that, and I think actually just having a solid tutorial mode that actually teaches you and holds your hand through the actual functions of the game, including the combos, I think that's a good way to start. A lot of games have that. I don't know why SoulCalibur hasn't implemented that, but anyway, I think it's beyond just like, here's a move on screen and here's like, just try to do it and get it. I think there's a better way to do that. I don't know. Let me know in the comment section down below if you agree with that. Now, this is something else that I've also talked about in the past, but it's something I wanted to elaborate a little bit more on, the character creation, or Create a Soul. I believe that like it was going in the right direction, and 5 is the best iteration of what we had. 6 kind of dropped the ball when they gave us these races and kind of gave us the illusion of choice by allowing us to start with a different base, but then like limiting what we can actually put on that base. It came up with a lot of characters that like felt samey, and just like most people like started with like the human characters and just try to make masks and stuff on top of that, as opposed to being creative with the actual races themselves. It wasn't really easy to actually get a lot of those races down to where you wanted them, and a lot of them actually had like uncustomizable attachments such as horns and tails that were locked out of other races and only given for them, and you couldn't even adjust them. So there was a lot of limitations that were placed on that. And I'm not just talking about sticker sizes and actual piece sizes and asymmetrical stuff. I think that that should be expanded on as well, but that should be a natural progressive thing. I'm talking about the races in general. They definitely need to be either unlocked fully so every race can utilize every piece of gear, or they need to get rid of them and go back to scratch and just start with like the human characters. I don't want to see them get rid of them, but if they are going to implement the races in some way, it should be a starting point with adjustable features, not just like the end game and then you're kind of dressing them up like a Barbie, if that makes any sense. I really think that like they should actually implement more instead of less when it comes to the character creation, because they're the most innovative in this space when it comes to that, and I don't want to see them get shown up by even just basic customization in games like Tekken. They need to stick to their guns and know what they're doing is right, and actually give us full, unadulterated control. I'm not talking about like straight up Neo style where you're like warping face positions and stuff like that using like X and Y axes, which would be great, but even though I'm not expecting that, we need more options if they want to have better characters. That means more faces, more face types, get the hair out of the face selections, let us choose sideburns and beards and hair and all that stuff separately, make everything unisexual across the board so that like every race or every gender can actually utilize everything, and then let us just have complete freedom with that mode. That's all I'm saying. Another thing that I want to stick with and that I want to talk about are stages and stage transitions and things of that nature. I think that stages are a big part of SoulCalibur. They're not the most important to me. I know they are to a lot of people. Some people are frustrated that we just get day and night stages and we don't get like a lot of different variation unless we bought them via DLC or something like that. Where I can kind of see their plight and agree with them there. What I want to see more is the stage adaptability. Like I want to see, I know that a lot of this stuff is actually in Libra of Souls and is locked to that mode, unfortunately, but I would like to see in the regular game you being able to do, at least in versus or in casual, I'm not talking about ranked. All of this doesn't concern ranked. Ranked can be its own thing and you only use to cast characters, and if you want to do create a character, there should be a create a character rank. Yes, it should be 2 different ranks, not just one, because of hitboxes and things like that. But when we're talking specifically about stages, I want like the wet stages, the slippery stages, like things are constantly trying to fall on you stages. Think of like towers from Mortal Kombat or even towers from SoulCalibur that implemented some of this stuff. Some of those mechanics would be awesome. Now, combat-wise, I do think that we should actually have some sort of tag option. It shouldn't be surrounded about the whole game, and I don't think it should be actual tags, but I think we should have assist characters where you select like, let's say Siegfried, and then you select, let's say Sungmina as like your assist and can fill them up with a gauge somewhat similar to the Naruto Storm series, how you can actually have them cover for you at times or have them come in and do an attack or a special attack, depending on the button correspondence in which they are mapped. I think that would be a good way to switch up the gameplay without having something stupid like Reversal Edge, and I think it would also bring a breath of fresh air. This should be an option though, it should not be based around the entire game. I'm looking at you, Mortal Kombat 1 with your cameo system. I'm looking. But I think that we should be able to have more options when it comes to that also. Weapon variation and weapon customization also need to be expanded upon. Days of All are gone. It seems that we had a ton of joke weapons for every character and had expansive customization of the actual weapons themselves. I think that this is a far needed thing, especially in a game that's centered around character creation. We need to be able to customize our weapons or mix and match with like hilts and blades and things of that nature. I think that would all be a good step in the right direction, but I'm not exactly sure if everyone agrees with me, so let me know in the comment section down below if you agree with me with that. I would like to see some new characters. I think we definitely need to keep the ones that were already in 6, but this is the opportunity that we have to actually introduce some other characters. Maybe bonus characters that appeared in 3 and actually give them some kind of canonization in a way where we actually make them playable. I have heard people talk about they want to bring back those customizable character movesets a lot. I do agree with that. That was one of my favorite parts of SoulCalibur 3. I'm not sure how much implementation like that would necessarily have, just based on the fact that like it's going to be a smaller budget, but I do think that like they should try to do some kind of thing with the character creation system and like the weapons to give them a different kind of feel, even if that means adding effects to weapons such as like fire, lightning, or things of that nature, instead of just having the standard fighting style that actually is set up by the main cast. The last thing I want to talk about is actually ranked and online, and obviously we know the netcode needs to be better, but I do want to see separate ranked modes. I mentioned this earlier, but I want to see a separate ranked mode for ranked and a separate ranked mode for character creation. I think that people that create these awesome characters should be able to compete with each other in a almost score-based way, but I think it needs to be separated from the traditional ranked mode, just because of the fact that the hitboxes, like I said, are different. Speed and strength is different because your actual stats are increased or decreased depending on the size or weight of the character, and I think all of that stuff should actually not be into ranked, because ranked is the traditional characters that are going up against each other and your skill with those characters. There should be no advantages or disadvantages in that mode. That should be a separate mode, as well as casual. Last thing also, I know I said last thing, but this is the last thing. I think they should update the lobby system and have a little bit more variety and a little bit more interaction with each other in the lobby system, and actually have more people be able to join lobbies and sit in lobbies. But that's going to be the video for today, guys. I want to hear from you in the comment section down below what you thought about today's video and any questions that you have. Also, you can join the Discord, which the link is in the description box down below, or you can become a member of the channel, which you can get a bunch of benefits, and it's always changing and always growing. So be sure to check that out also. And as I always say, guys, I love it. Thank you.
And thank you.